I can't edit that.
You can crop up the beginning. Right?
Yeah, I can clip off the end of the beginning. So. Okay. So
Should be chocolate.
I would prefer you just ask questions dealing with the assignment.
What's the assignment?
I'm not worried about that because once I disperse you to your computers, y'all just kind of spread out with your two computers. Yes, use those computers. I don't like that. I don't like the way that.
Are you going to turn the camera?
Yeah. So we're doing one today.
I wish I got in trouble. I'll start to talk about
Please excuse the interruption. Mr. Romero, will you please report to the front office? Mr. Romero, please report to the front office. Thank you.
Okay. For a minute there, I said, where's my notes? So, let's get started. All right. So, these are my friends. All right, let's get started. If I don't like this, I'm just going to completely just. Oh, I thought it was the phone. I was like, what's going on? I don't like this. Yeah, I'm just going to throw that and try something else. Is this a go in what's going on?
Probably. I just stepped on a cracker.
Okay, and let's start now. So today we're going to talk about how to handle your finances. Last week we went over financial law, we went over bankruptcy and some things like that, and towards the end of the week we're going to go over insurance. So this is going to kind of be a segue in between those two assignments. This is also part of more kind of looking into the honors style of this class where we're actually, it's not technically extra work, but it's a little bit more work. And we're starting to think a little bit more critically about what we're learning and how it affects us. So, basically, this is a PowerPoint that's going to go through this assignment and what we're doing. So, you will be planning out your future today. You will conduct research and analyze information to complete this activity. So, basically, you are going to be looking up how to find a job, how to find a home, and that doesn't have to be like a house. It could be an apartment, it could be a condo, it could be a townhouse, it could be whatever you want it to be. For this activity, I want you to find realistic jobs, something you would do one day. Even if you do aspire to be rich and famous, doing whatever it may be, a sport or a celebrity of some sort, that's great. Maybe one day you make that, but let's think a little bit more, what if something bad happens and I can't do that? So let's kind of think critically about what we might could do with our education, whether it be just straight out of high school, whether it be after going to community college or a university. But when you go find your job, you are going to need to know the kind of the requirements for that. Or did I? No, I did not. Also, what we have to be thinking about is our location. Are you going to stay here in Greenville and move? Are you going to move to California or somewhere in between? So wherever you work/live, will they be different or will they be the same? Some people, for instance, may work in Greenville and they live like in Washington. Some people work in Los Angeles or places around there, and they may live kind of in the suburbs outside of there. Alexandria, Virginia, for instance, a lot of people who live there work in Washington, D.C., so things like that. Those are just things to keep in mind when you are finding your location. So we're going to talk about which bank you will use. So set which bank you will use and add a link to describe what was created to insure the federal banks. We talked about this last week. I'm not going to give you the answer right off the bat, but for instance, if you put your money in this bank, what ensures you that your money is safe? We talked about that last week. So this is kind of a little bit of recall along with a creation. So now we get to the actual job part. What education will you need? What is your salary? Can you move up in the company or organization? And what will your hours be like? For me, for instance, my hours are, I work throughout the school year. I have the fall and spring semester, and then usually I have all summers. And that's because obviously I don't teach classes over the summer. So you're going to need to be thinking about that and think about what your lifestyle will be like. Because I'm not just doing this to see what kind of careers you have and where you'll be living, but What is your lifestyle like? Some of those things, for instance. So your home, next find a home, you're going to find an apartment or a home, rent or buy, city, suburbs, or rural, where you're going to be at. And there's pros and cons to city and suburbs. There's pros and cons for renting or buying. Why would you want to buy?
You can sell it.
You can sell it. It's yours, right? Okay. You can do what you want to it. That's correct. Yeah, that's it. What can you do with, what's the pros of renting?
It's cheaper sometimes. It's a personal thing.
It's cheap. You don't have to have all that money up front. The maintenance, that's correct. Yeah. Perfect. Great answer. Yes. You don't have to necessarily, if the washing machine breaks, you don't have to go buy a new washing machine. You're going to call your landlord and say, hey, I need a new washing machine. And then if you're a renter, they'll come and bring it to you. If you buy and your washing machine breaks, that's on you. Yeah. But the good thing is you own your home, so you can do whatever you want, and you can do some of those things we talked about last week with your home. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit as well. Transportation. So you need to find transportation. You might not necessarily have to have a vehicle. If you live in New York City, you might not need a car. But for most places, you probably want a vehicle. A car, truck, or SUV, gas mileage, new or used. Public transportation, bus or metro, and then the cost of that is it free or not? Because some cities have free transportation, some cities do not. So it just depends on where you live, and you're going to need to do the research on that. This is the segue into next week. Insurance, car insurance, home insurance. Research different types of companies. I'm not going to be upset if you don't get this 100% accurately. Just do some research. Let's say you go buy a Chevy Tahoe as your car, then look up car insurance for the average car insurance for a Chevy Tahoe. You buy a house and you buy the house, then you need to look up type of insurance for this type of home. And you can just get rough estimates. I'm not too worried. I just want you to start looking into that process because it's just a beginning point. Yes, sir. Yes, you'll need renter's insurance as well. So just look up some things like that. So we'll just kind of talk about that as we go, but I'm not worried about that yet. Like, you don't have to be 100% accurate. This is just so you can start thinking about it. Credit cards. So I would like for you to get some form of currency. What are you going to be using mainly? You can use cash, you can use checks, you can use debit cards, you can use credit cards. How many people have a credit card? Yes, no? No one has a credit card? Yeah, a lot of you probably will not have a credit card. I got a credit card back when I was in high school, about close to when I graduated, and it was literally just for me to go buy gas. And I talked about this last week, if you got on the Zoom, or if you watched the video. I talked about how it is important eventually to maybe get a credit card. There are, bad things with a credit card if you don't pay it on time, or if you're just thinking that minimum payment, it can sometimes end up coming back to bite you. But if you get a credit card, and this is just my personal advice, get a credit card and buy gas with it, buy groceries, things like that. And when you get that bill, pay it immediately. And all it does is build your credit, and that's what we talked about a little bit last week. If for some reason you couldn't catch the video on it. Your debit card is obviously just the card that's going to pull out of your checking from your bank. So you really don't have anything to worry. You could overdraw, obviously, with this, because when you're using a plastic card, you sometimes kind of forget, oh yeah, this is real money that I'm using. Hopefully you don't forget that. But you can use checks. I use checks to pay things like my utility bills, things like that. So you might use checks for that. And then I use cash sometimes when I'm just going to buy things at like a fast food restaurant, or sometimes when I buy groceries. It just depends. But I want you to just be thinking about that because we are talking about the financial aspects of life. I want you to find a hobby. It's important to find a hobby, and I'm not joking. Like, it's important when you get older to have something that you do. If all you do is go to work and go home, and that's it, you're going to kind of get to the point this is boring. You need something to let that stress out. I play hockey. I enjoy playing hockey. You might enjoy playing football right now in life, so there's probably a sport you could end up playing later in life. Like, there's adult flag football leagues. You could join that. I don't know why you're thinking about him. But anyway, because you'll be on his team. Anyway, so anyway, but there's tons of things you could get into coaching different sports and things like that. You could get into, Maybe it's, you know, I don't know. There's tons of different hobbies you could get into. I won't go there, but yeah, there's tons of different clubs and events you can get into. Okay. All right, budget. So eventually, you're going to have to create a budget. If you've been in Excel or taking Excel, you've probably done this a little bit. But again, this was a little bit more, you know, we're thinking realistically this time, and also you're not just doing this budget. So, and again, this doesn't have to be 100% correct. If you make a little few mistakes, I'm not worried about that. I want you to mainly understand the financial part of living. Create a budget from all this information. There's a direction sheet. We'll look over that in a minute too. But I made this a PowerPoint because I'll show you in a minute. Links, you need to include all the links you use for your research. I'm not going to be a stickler for like citations on this, obviously, because I mean, you're just showing me this is the house I looked at, and I don't. You're never going to need to really cite a house on anything in the paper or anything. So just show me the link that you can, and I'll show you some examples of the best way to do this. All right. Then lastly, you're making a presentation. So create a presentation to show the class all the information you researched and found. Again, see direction sheet. Final product needed. You're going to need that Excel or / Google Sheets. Making this here, I can tell you can actually use Google Sheets this time. And then PowerPoint presentation on your information. So basically, you're just going to put this all in a PowerPoint, similar to the way I just did this, and then you can do the same thing. But let's look at that direction sheet very quickly, and we can discuss exactly how we're going to do all these things. This is a little bit more detail here. Yes, that is the plan. If we have time, we'll see. We might run out of time, and then we'll have to kind of make room for it. So for this assignment, you will find a job you might try to get in the future. We discussed that, so we won't go ahead and read that word for word. But again, you're going to need to choose a location, choose a job. You're going to use Indeed.com. I don't know if anyone's gone there before, but Indeed has tons of job listings. For instance, if I typed in business teacher right now, I'm sure like tons of different business teaching positions will come up. Choose a phone. You're going to use Realtor for that. You can look in the area. There's a map option in there. Once y'all get on the computers, I kind of go around and start helping y'all, and you can probably find where exactly you want to live. But I chose that you would choose your location first, so then you can find a job in that area, and then you can find a home. Because you want your home to be at least somewhat close and drivable to your occupation. So then mention what law would protect you if you choose to use your home as an equity line. So this is only for homeowners, right? If you rent, you can't use that home equity line. But think about that law that we talked about last week. So I want you to start thinking about those things. Again, this is somewhat review, but it's also a creation project when we're talking about all these things from last week. Transportation and vehicle, we talked about that. Insurance for all those things, your credit card. What will need to be checked before you can get your credit card? We talked about that last week. Which law allows you to only be judged on financial information for credit and not things like your race or religion? And then which law sets a maximum amount of interest on a loan? So this is more, again, this is where I want you to really dive deep into that information we went over last week and now start applying it to this creation project. Again, I want you to find a hobby. I want a pie chart from your budget and include the links for the research. That's worth some points. There's your budget, and those are worth points as well. So this is a whole activity. It's all in Canvas. It's all online. So you will be able to go up there, and everything I've said up here, you have it all. I do include the PowerPoint. So again, at the end of the day, you are going to have a PowerPoint and a budget. You will go through all of that information, compile it all together, and then eventually you will present it. I'm thinking we will have time. I was a little concerned when I first was originally planning this because we weren't going back. We were still in the AV, but hopefully after spring break, maybe we'll have more time because it won't feel like we're kind of rushing through things because I have to present 2 weeks worth of students. But next, after spring break, we'll all be together again. So happy days. All right, that's basically it. I would like for y'all now to go to your computer